Hi, I'm Dan.
And I'm James.
And welcome to the Cornwall Property Podcast, where every week we bring you the latest news, hot topics and guidance around the Cornwall property market.
Stay tuned to be informed, inspired and to have any of your property related questions answered by trusted local property professionals.
Hello, welcome back. I'm Dan.
I'm James.
This is episode 39 of the Cornwall Property Podcast. Thank you for joining us once again. So today's episode is a Ask Dan and James episode. And why are we here? We are here to inform, educate, inspire you guys to get involved with property with a bit of a bias on the Cornwall property market, because there's a big issue in Cornwall with not having enough private rented property available, and there's far too many people needing homes still. So yeah, we're trying to just get you guys involved in property. How could you get involved? How could you help? How could you make yourself a little bit of money whilst doing so as well? So yeah, and by getting in touch with us, we can hopefully steer you in the right direction.
Absolutely. And as Dan says, it's your turn to ask us a few questions. And you might ask, how do you do that? For those of you who are new to the show, viewing or listening, you can go to cornwallpropertypodcast.com, go onto our front page there, scroll down to the bottom, and you can send us a message that way, or you can quite simply go onto our social media, especially on Facebook, and drop us a message there and just get in touch with us in anything property related you've got. So without further ado, we have Adam in Plymouth who has asked us the following question. Just a quick question. I may have missed this in one of your podcasts already. How are you guys overcoming the continued price increases? With each project you take on, you would have maybe a projected budget in place. This must be fairly tough when materials like timber, steel, insulation keep increasing. You're not far wrong there. Plus short supply of many others as well. Hope you don't mind me asking. Just a very curious fan of how you manage that. No, good question.
Cheers, Adam. I know Adam because I used to work with Adam back in the day. Really appreciate you listening too as well, Adam. So thanks for that. How we do it? I suppose it's essentially what we're doing is just being super contingent. To give you an idea for those that aren't maybe as au fait with the sort of price increases we're up against, we have got a couple of properties, projects and developments on the case at the minute, and in development and building at the minute, and we have just had priced up for insulation. And if we were to buy the insulation this month, it will be X amount. If we literally buy it in October now, it will be an extra 10% on the price. It is going up that sort of amount fairly regularly as well, worryingly. And you can guarantee and bang your butt you're going to have another price increase in the new year too, because it's fairly traditional with the building materials to have the Happy New Year, bang, and another 10%, please. So great question. And simply what do we do? We are very contingent with our numbers, Adam. When we do our end values, obviously our model is to buy and we hold the properties and we then rent out to the local market. So for example, we need to know what the end value is, the gross development value. We call it the GDV. Work out what the GDV is. We then make 20 or 25% profit to make sure that we can then put a mortgage on it and hold on to the property afterwards. And then we've got to work out our build costs, obviously. The problem we've got is that our build costs, as you're rightly identifying, could be spiralling out if there's a lot of increases during the period. So what do we do? Obviously, it's very important to have a 15 to 20% contingency built in there, which kind of is your little buffer as such. We are yet to do a property or a project that has not had to tap into a contingency that we've made ourselves, because there's always something in the rip out that you find that you weren't realizing or expecting, or as you are ripping out, something happens as a result of it. So for example, we're just doing a couple of properties in the centre of Truro at the minute, grade 2 listed buildings, beautiful buildings, and as we're doing the rip out and we're just reconfiguring some floor space, we've realised that the floor was actually not supported by anything. So it's kind of right, well, now we need to you couldn't foresee this without doing an x-ray vision on the property sort of thing. It's just no way you could have seen it or foreseen it. So luckily, because we had contingencies in place, it wasn't a big hit for us, because we were able to get the new steels in, get the structural engineer to help spec us up what we need to do. But again, there's always things going wrong, and a way we can just be more contingent, Adam. So how can we get as contingent? We're contingent on every area of a deal. So we're contingent on the end value. So if it could be valued at £400,000, well, let's do our figures on 380. Let's make sure it works at 380, and then we're safe. We've got a little bit of a buffer there. On our end, so that's on the end value, we're buffering there. And then on the refurb cost, right, it's going to be £200,000 refurb. Let's add your 15, 20%. maybe a little bit more. Let's make sure we go for the 20% at least, 25% if you want to be super, super safe. But again, that's the only thing you can do, because these things are out of our hands, sadly, Adam. And as you can dwell, you can worry about it too much. You can just sit on your hands and just think, oh, well, I'll wait until it steadies out. But it could be too late. You could also argue, well, if the increases that you're seeing in materials in cost, well, recently we've been seeing that increase really in the end values as well, because it kind of marries itself out. So it's not been too. We've been very fortunate in that the build costs haven't been too ridiculous in terms of spiraling out of control. We're also very fortunate that the market's been in our hand, in that the market's actually increased as well. So not only have our build costs increased, but the end value has increased. But because we do all our vehicles on worst case scenario, we kind of kept ourselves safe in that respect. Would you agree?
Yeah, absolutely. I think you make some, very sensible bits, and I've learned a lot from you, Dan, over the last few years, just for being contingent. I think you have to be in this day and age. Everything you have to be contingent with. I think even in the rental sector, with the bills, inflation, gas going up, oil going up, petrol going up, there's a denominator. Inflation is on the increase, and it doesn't look like it's going to be slowing. So, yeah, put bags of contingency in, as you say, Dan. But interestingly, about 2 months ago, I was in Jewson's. Of all places, and I was buying myself a dustpan and brush, where I had to go and do a bit of site cleaning on a particular thing. Somebody hadn't done it, so I offered to muck in, but that was another story. But whilst I was there, I actually know the chap in Jewson's, and I was actually asking him about, what's going on with materials at the moment. Are there any more increases, that type of stuff? He said, yeah, well, we've actually been speaking with a lot of the manufacturers abroad, and they've been telling us that we are likely to see another increase in October. I was like, oh, in my mind, that's quite specific. And I thought that's very similar to when we deal with our power team, with our brokers. They get the knowledge before kind of the punter, if you know what I mean. So the broker can say, look, I've not missed it, Meg, but it looks like all the kind of, the big wigs are saying that it is going to go up. It's only a matter of time. So maybe, is it worth securing your deal now? And there's no reason why you couldn't do that with materials. If the word on the street with the wholesalers are that they're going to be going up in a month's time, then is it, and it might seem a bit left field, but if you're definitely about to complete on the purchase, why don't you get a container unit and buy a load of timber and house it in there?
Did you do that with toilet roll?
I in the first lockdown, I did buy in bulk. I'm not going to lie, it was just on toilet paper, but that was another story. But But what I'm saying is, can you be a bit more creative and not just think, is it going to go up? Go and ask the wholesalers. Go to Bradford's, go to Jewson's. And
that's what we did with the boys on site, didn't we? We said,
exactly.
Look, you're going to need this in the next 2 months. Well, why don't we just get it on site now, and then you've got it
exactly,
and save yourself the 10%.
100%. That's what I would do. It's definitely going to be going up anyway, or it's going in that direction.
Brilliant.
Save yourself some money.
Well, that was a very long-winded answer, but hopefully it's given you a few angles to think about, Adam, and hopefully it helps us answer your question and others as well. So, second question, the last for the podcast today, is from Olli in Truro. James, I'm going to throw this at you. I am starting to look at my first buy-to-let property in Cornwall. Brilliant. Great news, Olli. Love it. I can see from obtaining quotes that solicitor fees vary hugely. Does this really matter? Which one I go with, or are they all doing the same thing, which is to simply get to completion?
Very good question there, Olli. It's one that I've been asked by a few people, actually, because they always say to me, what solicitor do I use for conveyancing? But essentially, to your question, that they're all doing the same thing to completion of the property. That's what you're trying to do, is buy it, and you will get there eventually. However, depending on the scenario of the purchase, of course, it's all about that power team. I've talked about having a good mortgage broker in the past that will get you a really, really good deal. It's exactly the same with the solicitor. For me personally, I would definitely want to spend more on getting a good solicitor that is going to be sharp, on the ball, and it's not only going to keep the vendor happy, who you're purchasing from, because they can see you're actually getting things done on time, and also you're going to, you're just going to get the property quicker. What happens if it's taking much, much longer to buy the property and you miss out on a really good interest rate before the next increase? So I would definitely say you've got, in my mind's eye, you've got 3 categories. You've got the low end of the scale, where you're saying they vary hugely. They're very
online conveyancing,
or there are ones in Cornwall, not going to mention any names, where they're sort of like one-man bands that are just trying to promise the world and not deliver it. And they are, when you see sort of £500 all in for conveyancing, that's a red alarm for me. But you've also got conveyancing which is much at the the higher end scale where you're sort of paying like 1,500 for conveyancing. Generally for me, I normally, if it's a standard residential sale, I'd probably be putting in somewhere between sort of £1,000 to £1,100 plus VAT if you want a good person to do your conveyancing. And buying a house, whether it's for yourself, whether it's for your investment, is stressful. I'm not going to lie to you guys, it is stressful. So why don't you just eliminate a little bit of that stress and just have a solicitor that's going to be really, really sharp, can hold your hand going through it, especially if you're new to it, and can just get things done when they say they're going to do. Nothing worse than the estate agent chasing you, going, I can't get hold of your solicitor, they've been quiet for 2 weeks, and my vendor is starting to get prickly. So definitely I would go sort of middle to high as a starting point if you can afford it. Otherwise, expect you might come into some problems along the way, and you're going to be going slow.
And for us, what the most important things, as you say, is speed and comms, communication. It's being kept in the loop the whole way along, and knowing that you could get in touch and get an answer sharpish. That's simply it, really. So you can just hold hands throughout the process. That's generally what you'd like to know. What's happening.
Absolutely. And quite often when you're going, especially in this case, it's your first buy to let property, the investment is quite lucrative at the moment in Cornwall. Lots of people doing it. If you put an offer in to a vendor and they see you're in a strong position and you promise that, look, let's just get this property done, let's exchange in 28 days, and suddenly you're 3 weeks in and the solicitor hasn't even sent out the memorandum of sale, the vendor's going to start getting a bit upset. And what happens if you get 2 months into this and then you've already built up the fee with the solicitor, and then the vendor goes, do you know what, you promised me you're going to be quick, you're not, I'm pulling out. And then you haven't got the property, which is a bad thing, and you've also now got a solicitor bill for their time, so you've lost out there. So definitely, as in many things in life, you get what you pay for.
Definitely. Well, guys, that's it for episode 39, Ask Dan and James. Hopefully that's been of use. If so, please do let us know. Leave a little review. Leave us some feedback. It'd be lovely to hear from you. Obviously, like, share, subscribe to the podcast. Every little thumbs up helps just on the algorithms and things, just to help get us out there a little bit more, which would be much appreciated. So, guys, thank you once more. Again, if you want to get in touch, there's many ways of doing so.
Absolutely, and that is by going to cornwallpropertypodcast.com, go onto our front page, send us a message that way, or go onto our social media on Facebook and literally just send us a message on that way. And thank you very much for all the feedback that you give us, all the questions. And obviously we only have so much time on the podcast, we can't always put them live on the show, but we will always make a response to you via email, or we can arrange to give you a call as well if you want to ask a question, and we can try and help out that way. We're all about giving back, and again, we're just trying to get these empty properties back on the market so we can support Cornwall living.
Definitely so. Well, guys, until next time, it's a goodbye from me.
Goodbye from me.